Very good evening, everyone. This is Rajendran here, joining from Market Calls, and welcome everyone to day two of the training session. So today's session is right. This is more of a continuation of yesterday's module one, which is the web framework fundamentals. So if you remember yesterday, what we had done is I'm going to show you what we had done yesterday, right? So we built an backend and also we built an front end. It's kind of a simple virtual trading platform, right? A very simple virtual trading platform with very basic and very minimal controls, which we are able to build within a matter of time, right? I mean, probably we took like I would say like we had a lot of hiccups. It's not smooth when we started. But I'm going to show you a couple of things today, like how once you had a working solution, how it is easier to build things on using that as an base prompt, right? So what we are going to do is like today's session we're also going to learn some more basics, fundamental about the web framework. Basics is what we learn about in today's session as well. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this, all the folder content from day 01. I'm going to bring it to day 02. So basically, I'm just going to adjust. I'm going to say like, I would like to do this using an, we'll see, like we'll try with ChatGPT, right? I'll go to chat and I'll say like, I want some PowerShell command to copy the entire content. PowerShell. Copy the entire content of day 01 to day 02 folder. Create the folder as well. Yeah. You see that the whatever the one which we are using inside VS Code is a PowerShell. It's not the command line tool. It's not the CMD one which you are using. So CMD is different from PowerShell, right? So if you understand bunch of command line commands, most of them are applicable. But however, there are many partial commands are a little different, right? So let's say this recursively, we're going to copy day 01 to day 02. And better if day 02 already exists, you want to copy only the content. But in our case, we want to create the folder and we have to copy that. So I'll just go back and paste this. That should be creating the day 02 entire content it's going to create. So let it do, yeah. And then I'm going to close the folder here. I'm going to open up day 02, right? So I'll go to File, Open Folder. If you remember, I kept in my D drive. So if I go to my D drive, we can find this, what is the folder name? Full stack options, right? So full stack options, day 02, and I'm going to select the folder. Now, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to pull up the terminal and then I'm going to fire up the Claude, right? I'm going to ask for the commands. So yesterday, if you remember, we used AI tools to run the application. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to run the application manually in a terminals, different terminals. We're going to run it like one terminal for a front end, another terminal for a back end. So both we are going to run. So I'm going to say like, can you provide me the commands for running the application? Now, I don't want Claude code to run the application. I want myself to run the application. So I just want some commands. Okay, so here are some of the commands over here. We have to ensure that I'll open up a new terminal. So one terminal for the backend, another terminal for the front end, right? So first we'll go to the terminal. First thing first, we'll run the backend. So first I'll get into that backend folder. You just right click, automatically it get pasted, enter. I'm getting into the backend folder, and then I'm activating uh, I should activate the virtual environment, but however, this command is mostly for Linux. For Windows, the command is /vnv/script/activate, right? So, or you just ask, say, like provide for Windows environment, it should get that. For some reason, it is giving me the Linux command. I don't know why, but never mind. Right. So I'll also try to install the libraries first time only. But right, yesterday itself we had installed. But still, anyways, already the library has been installed. So I'll try to install the library. So anyways, most of the libraries has been already installed. So what kind of libraries? Front end, I mean back end libraries, right? Python libraries, basically. And then finally, I'm gonna run the application using the uvcon command. So uvcon is like kind of an server which will be running the our FastAPI application. I'm gonna run the uvcon command, and this will be starting the application in port 8000. Followed by that, uh, I need to run the front end as well. So front end, you can see that there is a two components are there. One is the Vite and then React. So React is the front end and Vite is like for building the application, right? So let's go to the front end folder. Again, we have to install the library. In our case, it is already installed. Yesterday itself, it is installed. So it's one-time setup only. npm install is for installing the library. Okay, so library is already installed. So then I'm going to run the application. This is for running the application inside the uh, development server. We are not in the live server. In the live server, the method is completely different. In the live server, we have to build it, we have to pack it, and then we have to take that distribution, and we don't need to run the front end, by the way, when we are running in the live server, right? So, but in production, you have to run it. Live, it will compile using Vite. It will be building the dependencies and everything, and it will be packaging it, and then so that we can able to access it. So there are two ports which are running. If you see that backend is running in port 8000, where that is where the APIs, business logic, everything will be running. Our entire Python application will be running. Front end is where localhost colon 5173 is running over here. So if I control click 5173, here is what it happens. The application runs and I'll be able to log in. Everything works as expected, right? Yesterday we built something, right? See if I forgot the password. Test at the rate 1234, I think, right? Test at the rate 1234. Yeah. So I'm able to log in and it is also able to render the data as well. Everything is working as good enough. But let's say I'm going to teach you something very interesting. It's called a skills. So there's something called skills.sh. Skills.sh. Skills is something which is introduced by Anthropic back around 20. I mean, just 2 months back, like two and a half months back is what the Anthropic is introducing skills. And because they introduce skills, right? So majority of the Indian market IT company shares, not only Indian market, but globally also. Many SaaS companies, they had almost eroded majority of their, it created a huge losses in those companies. So one of the skill is like front-end skill. You can find like a lot of skills over here, right? So the skills.sh itself a portal maintained by Vercel. So Vercel is the one, they are creator of Next.js. You can also host your websites in Vercel, right? I host my own, some of my websites in Vercel, right? So I host many websites. You can see like a lot of websites I had co-hosted. One of the popular website I hosted in Vercel is like openalgo.in, right? So this is completely hosted in a serverless environment. No physical servers, nothing. It's totally in a serverless environment. Later on, we'll talk about what is a serverless environment means. And my company name also like openflare.in. This is a company which I am running. So Probably this is also running in a serverless environment. It's kind of a static pages, nothing much. Even the OpenAlgo.in also static pages, no database, nothing. It's a plain vanilla static pages. It has some basic information about what is OpenAlgo, what is OpenFlare. Everything is running in the Vercel environment, right? So the creator of the Vercel, they also introduce a couple of frameworks like Next.js, and they also the one who is maintaining the skills.sh. So where if you are already having skills, let's say one of the skills is like front-end skills. So if I want to install the skill, so I just have to copy this. Right? There's a command over here, npx command. If you want to run this command, you need to have a Node.js installation, right? So Node should be installed. Node.js should be installed over here. How do I know that Node.js is installed in my machine? So I just simply go and open up a new terminal and then just check node hyphen hyphen version. You ensure that node you're already having 22 plus version 22 plus is what it is required, right? So I'm already using very close to the latest version. And once this is done, you just paste the front end design skill. Then you invoke the Claude. So it's asking you like, do you want to say yes? I'm going to say yes. Probably is asking me, are you going to install in Claude code, right? And then I'm going to type enter. Do you want to install only in this particular project or you want to globally install? I'll say like I want to install in this particular project. I want to create a sim link and then enter. So that will be installing the skill. Now what the skill is like, the skill contains best instructions, right? So let's say if I fire up the Claude again, let's say I'm just firing up the Claude again. It's a new Claude, right? And if I go to slash skills, so I'll be able to see the list of skills which are available over here. So there's one of the skills like front-end design skill, right? So using this front-end design skill inside the project, so you can see that the skill is placed inside the .claude folder. There is a skill folder is there. Inside that front-end design is there, which contains the skills.md, which contains how to create beautiful websites. Right? By design, building a beautiful website is something which is the most important thing. It automatically it comes up with. So the skill is already loaded, but I'll ensure that can you load the front end skills, front end design skills. It's nothing but some bunch of best, we can say like best instructions how to design a front end website. So once the skills is loaded, now I'm going to say like I'm going to take some website, sample reference website. So one of my sample reference website is always Superbase. So I'll go to the Superbase website and I'll say like hey, I want my application to be looking something like this, right? I'll just say, I just take a screenshot of this website and I say like, I want to uh, convert my existing portal into Superbase inspired portal, right? I'm also attaching the image as well. So Alt V, that image will be attached. What are the image which I copied will get attached. And then I'm going to say like use the front end design skills to completely refactor the website. Refactor means change the website so that it doesn't looks uglier. Right now it is looking good, but I mean, it's not up to the standard, right? So I just want to create a Superbase inspired website. Ensure that Superbase theme is maintained across the app and the terminal. Uh, okay, let's see. I don't overcomplicate much. We can add a lot of things, but I'll say like I'm just asking to completely redesign the website so that it looks like Superbase. I'm also giving examples as well, right? So the more examples that you're gonna provide, better the model can replicate what you want to do, right? This is one of the key learning here. So there are two learnings here. One is what are skills. There are a lot of skills you will be able to find in skills.sh. It's a kind of an aggregation platform where you can find it. The second one is how skills can be used to improve your, you don't need to be an expert in front-end design, because the skill.md has all those instruction. I'm finding that instruction is very smaller, but sometimes the skills might have like huge amount of instruction. Here the instructions are like, these are the instructions the skills are having. So these instructions, accordingly, the website will be created, right? And these instructions are from the Anthropic itself. So it should have some design thinking, and so how the design thinking should be, right? So what is critical, how the front end aesthetic should look like, or how the typography, color theme, how it should be, the motion graphics and animation, how it should be, and a lot of other things, a lot of other details. Not much of a details, I would say, but a reasonable amount of detail that will make your web completely unique, and it is also ensure that the website looks cool and neat and clean, very professional compared to earlier. Earlier one looks like a college project to me, but let's see how the now how the design of the website is going to likely to be. Let it code. In the meantime, I'll try to explain again what we had done so far, right? So that we get a pretty good idea about what we had done. So I think yesterday also we talked about that. Remember, we talked about, there it is. I think oh, this is getting into ML. It's the front end and back end. Okay, never mind. So let's say we have a front end and we have our back end, right? So yesterday you would have learned that we use only React, but today you would have learned that it's not just React, we are also using React plus Vite as well, right? React plus Vite. Vite is not the one you're not going to see, but this will be mostly using for compiling, building the front end. For that purpose only, we'll be using React. What you see is the pure React framework is what we're going to use. And then backend is all about, there are two things that we are using. One is FastAPI, and the database what we are using is like SQLite, right? And the first stage is like we create a virtual environment over here. So we have to create a virtual environment so that we can install our libraries. So we create our virtual environment only in Python, right? So frontend doesn't require a virtual environment. Followed by that, we install libraries. So we also go and install libraries. Install libraries. So these libraries will be sitting where in a file name called requirement.txt file. So that will be sitting in an requirement.txt file. If you are using a traditional one, all your libraries will be in requirement.txt file. Or if you are using something like an UV method, which in our upcoming session I'll also show you, you will be using something called pipeproject.toml, right? So this is your libraries could be either here if you are using a traditional method, if you are using a modern method, pyproject.toml, right? So this is like UV method. Let's call this like UV method. This is a method I prefer to use anyways. And then front end also, we don't create a virtual environment, but we can directly go and install the libraries. So how do we run the libraries? So there's a command called npm install, right? And from where it will be installing is like, it'll be installing from package.json. Package.json. This is a file all your front-end libraries will be there, right? So a lot of front-end libraries, Axios and Lucid, many libraries might be installed over here. It could be a front-end charting library, or it could be a trading view library, right? Or it could be, let's say, like you want to plot some histogram, or you want to show some option payoff graph, right? Or it could be some plotly libraries, anything that you are showing in the front end. which does a certain set of job, right? It can be called as a library, and yeah, those libraries will be sitting inside package.json, right? And on top of that, we'll be running the application. So we'll be using UVCon to run the application, to run the application. And here we'll be using npm run dev. If I am in a test environment, right now we are in a test environment, we are not putting in a live production server. So npm run dev, this will be running the application, right? So that's a command so far that you need to know over here. All right. So coming back to the topic. So it is trying to completely rewriting the entire application, right? You can see that completely changing the style, everything. Now, this is where we are gonna understand a couple of things over here. Let it refactor. Refactor means what? Refactor means completely changing the code to the newer changes. So the new changes, what I asked is like, I don't like the front end, but I just want to move to the completely and super base style theme, right? So you see that the super base style theme is like more or less, if you could see that it's like, it's having an white and greenish theme, right? So I just want to have a look and feel of this kind of style setups and everything. Like you see that this something like this is what I would like to see, at least matching to some extent. Let's see how that is going to get translated. In the meantime, we'll try to get some more basics about the web, right? So talking about the web-based application, we know, right? Yesterday we learned what is a full stack application. There'll be a front end, there'll be a back end, and there'll be a data layer. So in data, we'll be having the database and also cache layer. Cache is for database will be sitting, all storing all the data in the hard disk, whereas Redis will be living in the RAM. Redis or cache mostly will be living in the RAM. So the Redis or cache will be faster because it is processed by the RAM, and permanent storage will be keeping it in the Postgres. So we'll discuss more about it. But I would like to talk about the very basics of how the front end works. So front end is all about only three things. One is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the HTML gives you the look and feel. It shows you like forms, buttons, right? Drop down controls. All those things are like HTML. The look and feel, what you see, the controls, whatever you see, what you see on the page, that's the HTML, right? The CSS is the one, it brings beautification to the website. So what is the font size? What is the length of the text box should be, right? And what color it should be, whether it should be center aligned or not, how much margin it has to be there, how much width it has to be there, mobile, how it should look like, mobile device. If the device is a mobile, how the website should look like, or if it is a tablet, how the same device should look like. I don't know whether you guys know about it or not. Let's say I'll show you how a responsive portal will look like. So this is like open algo if I'm watching in a desktop. If I right click, if I go to the inspect element in Chrome or any other portal, there is a provision that you can go and switch to, let's say, phone, how the same website, you see that it's completely looking different, right? Same website, same content, but it is shown in a different manner because of the device. But you see that the alignment is not changing. It's easy to navigate still, right? If I change it to tablet, let's say something like an iPad Air or iPad Pro, again, you can see that the layout is changing, everything is changing again, right? Now, this is what we call as a responsive website. So who takes care of the responsive website is the CSS. The CSS is the one we can control, depends upon which device that I want to see. I want to control my layout. Everything can be controlled by the CSS. And then we have JavaScript, right? So JavaScript is the one which brings interactivity to the pages. If I click that button, what should happen? That is decided by the JavaScript. Let's say I'm clicking on the place order button. What action should happen? sometimes, right, when something like if I go to the trading view, right, you can find a lot of controls over here. Let's say if I'm opening up this full screen mode, you see that the screen itself completely changing over here. Now, what should change in my screen is decided by the JavaScript, right? I can reduce it or I can compress it, I can switch back. So all these controls, all these interactive controls are done by completely by whom? So completely done by the JavaScript as an element. It brings interactivity. Like I can click over here, I can pull back, or I can even add, I can draw some trend lines. Now, everything is done by JavaScript. The JavaScript is the one that's bringing interactivity to those elements, right? Apart from that, if I press a certain button, what should happen? Or if I compress, zoom in, zoom out, right? So I can move everything. These kind of all these interactivity is brought by the JavaScript, right? So when I'm typing in the form, right, it also can validate whether my is my email ID is valid or not. For example, let's say I'll go to Screener portal. Screener portal. I'm just try to register. Let's say like I just try to register. I'll just try to enter an email, right? So, but I say like I'm not going to enter an email. I say something like this. I say like open algo. It's not an email, but open algo, and I'll put some password, some random password. I'm just putting over here. I'll try to create an account. Account will not get created. Say like it is saying that hey, you missed an at symbol in the email address. This is what we call as a validation. So it does even validate saying that you missed an at symbol. So now if you give it, probably it will work because the validation works. So you can this the validation is also done by the JavaScript, not just interactivity. It also does validation as well. So the JavaScript is the one which will be checking whether are you entering if the column is like phone number, are you typing the number or you are trying to type an non numbers, right? If you type some character, it's going to warn you saying that it accepts only numbers only, right? So that those are the things the JavaScript does. So it can control the behavior of the page, right? Now, these are some of the things, right? So in HTML, you can find headings, paragraph, links, images, forms, buttons, inputs, and divs and sections, right? That's what HTML is all about. Mostly, it brings the content in front of your page, right? CSS, it talks about colors, margins, how much distance we have to keep, how the border should look like, right? So box, grids, and responsive designs. Likewise, JavaScript talks about what? Even calling the broker API, right? So when I click the button, order has to go. So how the order will go? I have to call there should be some communication happening from front end to the back end. Let's say I'm having an front end here. So here is my front end and I'm having a button. So let's say this button is a place order button. Place order button. When I press the button, the order has to go through from the front end to the back end, right? So here is a front end and here is our back end Python. So when I press the button, right, the order has to go through. So it calls the JavaScript. So it calls the JavaScript. It calls the API using the function in JavaScript called fetch API, right? So fetch API is used to send orders to the backend. Backend will be processing it and probably, let's say if it want to send to Upstocks, it will even send to Upstocks. Or let's say your connected broker is like Zerodha and it's gonna send it to Zerodha, right? This is what something that we're gonna build today. But the core layer is like the front end is the one which is communicating to the back end, and the back end will be doing some processing and it will be returning back again to the front end. So let's say like the order got successful, the order punch is successful, that message will be displayed saying that, hey, your order has been sent, this is the order ID, and this is the rate it got executed. So those kind of instructions will be shown in the front end. So everything is done by the JavaScript over here. JavaScript not only does validation, when the button is pressed, what should happen? That is decided by the JavaScript, right? So how to communicate with the backend, that is also handled by JavaScript. So JavaScript plays a very major role, particularly in terms of front end. And these days, JavaScript can be used in the backend also. Instead of Python, you can also use JavaScript in the backend as well. All right. So before we talking about this, right, I would like to go and I think this thing has been already done, right? So let's restart the backend and the front end. So I'll just break. I don't need to break because it's running in a reload mode. So it will be any changes that I am now doing to the backend, it will be automatically reloaded. And if I am doing any changes in the front end also, automatically it reloads. So I don't need to do that. But for namesake, I'm going to show you like how to break. I'm just pressing Control plus C. I'm breaking the application and I'm rerunning the application over here, right? So now let's go to the portal and see the look and feel of it. This is what we get. You guys able to see that? Like what is the power of the skills? It's now it looks exactly like Superbase, right? So I showed you the Superbase, right? This is Superbase. And this is our application. Now it can mimic those things. Even inside also it is mimicking that color theme like white and green, that the theme format it is maintaining. You can see that it's maintaining those theme across the board. And that is making the application really looking cool, right? You guys are having any questions? I mean, like yesterday, I'm just gonna unmute everyone. Whenever you have any questions, you can stop me and you can ask whenever you want. Rohit, you are having any questions?
Can you show us how to use the skills again? Like, is it just
So the skills, right? So let's say I'll try to show you some of the different skills, right? So let's say the skills.sh. Yesterday, if you've seen that, we are making a lot of mistakes. The FastAPI is making a lot of mistakes because we don't have FastAPI skills. So, but if you go and type, let's say FastAPI, which is already an expert, there's a FastAPI which is released by FastAPI itself. And that is what we're going to use. Otherwise, many people also already use some FastAPI templates, FastAPI Python. But I'm going to use the FastAPI skills, which is done by FastAPI itself. FastAPI says that, hey, we know how to develop FastAPI. We are the creator of FastAPI. We know how to write FastAPI better. So these are the best practices. So, and you can see, look at the GitHub stars like 46.9K. So I'm going to copy this skill. I'll go to a terminal. So let's say I'll go to a terminal. And then I'm going to paste the skill over here. So once you paste the skill, and this skill, right, it will be working in Claude also, Codex also. It also works across many places. Maybe if you would have seen OpenClaw also many people use from a skill point of view, right? And you can also use in these tools as well. Maybe you might be using Codex or Cursor or Anti-Gravity. Skills has been supported and the entire world is moving towards skills. It's an alternative to MCP, right? Even Anthropic itself positioning as like it is alternative to MCP. What is MCP? Later on we'll talk about that, right? So because it is having best instructions, it know now the AI agent knows how to write the code. So I always use this analogy, like probably I'm sure like there is a movie came in 1999. I don't know whether you know or not. Like there's a movie name called Matrix. So in Matrix, so here is a Matrix movie, right? So there's a movie, a very old movie, right? I'm sure you might be knowing, many of you guys might be knowing about it. Neo there's a helicopter scene where Neo asked Trinity, I'm sure like he points to this helicopter and say like, do you know how to drive this B212 helicopter? And then Trinity say like, not yet. And then she call somebody in the ship and ask her to load the skill. So that guy will be loading the skill. And now very quickly, instantly, she becomes an expert in helicopter and she start driving it. But likewise, you don't need to be an expert in Fast API. What you can do is like you just simply install the Fast API. That's what I'm doing over here. I'm just installing the best skills. So now I'm an expert in building an backend application using Fast API. Because if you go inside the skills, right, you will be finding this Fast API. Inside Fast API, we have the skills folder. That skill folder contains how to write fast API, how to run the fast API applications. Because a lot of things has been changed. Now we are not using UVCon anymore. Fast API for dev, for running in the development environment. Fast API run for running in the production server, right? And uh, if you want to build your libraries, better use pyproject.toml. It's using the modern methods, right? So they've been switched completely to the modern methods. So we don't need to sit with the legacy things, right? All those old practices goes away, and a lot of new practices comes up. So this is how you should write the code. So all those lot of coding instructions are there, right? And this is prepared by Fast API itself, right? So that you just give the prompt, you say what do you want to build, and the backend Fast API will be taken care, right? So yeah, this is like some hardly like 400 lines of skills. However, your skills can go like pages and pages of skills you can go. You can also invoke multiple skills also. You can say like, hey, can you build an application with a front end skills and back end you use Fast API? Use the Fast API skills, load the Fast API skills, and try to build the application. So likewise, you can also use multiple skills at the same time, right? You got it, Rohit? Anybody else is having any question? Yeah. Anybody else having any question? So this was a simple demonstration of what is the power of the skills, right? So just show you that the entire look and feel has been completely transformed, right? Now it looks very professional. Yesterday it was okay, kind of, but now it is completely looking very professional, right? Now what these machines are really good is like they are really good imitator. It can imitate anything. Now something we're gonna imitate something crazily that we're gonna imitate, right? Now what we are gonna do is like I just want to show you like whatever that you're seeing in the browser, inside the browser, whatever you're seeing, that's what we call as a DOM. We call it as a DOM. Each and every element that you're seeing is a DOM over here. So DOM means, I think, document object model. I don't keep remembering things, but most likely it could be like document object model. So what does that means is like how the page look and feel looks like, right? Probably in other another words, like if there is a website, so there is an header is there. Inside the header, like there is a subtext is there, button is there, buttons and images are there. It will be represented like a tree-like representation of the page. Let's say if I am pressing a button, I'm just pressing a button over here. Sometimes you can say like the button itself will change colors sometimes, or if I keep my cursor on top of that, the UI changes. So the DOM actually represents the how the page structure is looking inside the browser, right? What are the elements it contains? I can use JavaScript to interact with the DOM. I can say like maybe I can use to demonstrate using Claude, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll try to close all these applications because we're not going to use anymore. I'll open up the folder. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put this inside a folder over here. I'll say like vtrade. I'm going to create a folder name called vtrade. I'm going to put everything inside the folder here, right? So including whatever, all the things, whatever we created, everything I'm just putting inside the folder over here. It says like completed because the folder or file is open in another program. I'll try to close this. And where else it is open? Yeah, probably this one. I just break the application because I'm not able to transfer it to a different folder. Okay, I just moved everything to a vtrade folder, right? Let's get back. So now I'll fire up Claude and then I'm going to say, can you demonstrate DOM and JS controls in a page, right? So that I can understand what is a DOM and how we can use JavaScript to control the page. A simple website, a simple page where we'll be having some controls so that I can understand how the page changes most likely, or how the button changes, button text changes, or something like that. A simple demonstration is what I'm looking out for so that we can go and interact with the page and understand how things works. It's going to create a standalone demo page that covers all the key DOM and JS concepts. Oh, it's able to understand inside the vtrade. I don't know whether it's going to create inside the vtrade or not, but let's see. It recognizes that this is a React Vite project. That means it got into vtrade folder and then it recognized some of the directories. It haven't read any files inside that. Maybe from the directory structure, it knows that, oh, this looks like there is a package.json is there. So maybe it could be a React application because there is a Vite is also there. So maybe by looking into the project structure, it knows that there's a front end, back end folder is there. So most likely a lot of elements related to React is there. A lot of folders related to React is there. So that way it would have got to know that it's a React project. So it's going to just create a standalone HTML page. So there are two concepts over here. In a regular HTML pages, we will be having an simple DOM. Whereas if you look at the React uses a concept called virtual DOM. Later on, we'll talk about that. That makes the application brings more interactive controls. And by the way, React itself created by Mark Zuckerberg, right? So Mark Zuckerberg, I think around 2013, he's thinking that the old HTML page is looking very crappy. So let me go and build something very cool because old websites are not faster. So he was getting an idea that translated into React. He also kept it open source so that and that's where I would say like the complete web transformation. Websites started getting more and more beautiful after React, right? After React, then we had a lot of frameworks: Vue.js, AngularJS. AngularJS was from Google, and Vue.js is neither from any big companies, right? So it's from an individual contributor. That's one of the reason Zerodha says like we are using Vue.js because it's neither from Google, neither from Facebook. So it is from it's from the community itself. So that's why Zerodha says like we are using Vue.js in our Kite application. And by the way, here are some of the things I show this in majority of my sessions. Like if you go to Zerodha FOSS, so Zerodha has a page for FOSS, and no, and they changed it. FOSS, yeah, tech stack. So these are some of the things Zerodha is been using, right? So languages, mostly they're using Go for their kite terminals, right? So kite terminals for concurrency, they're using Go. Python, mostly for the backend applications, Backend in the sense like not major applications, but some of the applications like maybe some affiliate management application, some internal applications. Most likely they might be using Python. Otherwise, Go and Java is what predominantly they are using. Not only Zerodha, even Angel also predominantly they use either Go and Java for concurrency, right? And for mobile application they use Dart, and front end they use Flutter for the mobile application. And most likely for data streaming they might be using Kafka. Front end, as I said, like they are using Vue.js, and some of their HRMS and everything they are using Frappe. It's Frappe is again a framework which is built on top of Python. Django, again, like how we are using FastAPI, likewise, Django is also another framework um, which is very popular. Even Google uses in many of the locations. Flask, I don't know, maybe for tiny applications they'll be using mostly, not designed for larger application. I think most likely for the partner application, affiliate applications, right? So for those kind of small applications, small internal applications, most likely they might be using Flask. Again, Flutter for the mobile application, right? So that they are using a lot of open source stack. And what Zerodha says is like we save almost $10 million every year because we are completely using open source stack. They don't pay to any SaaS subscription. They don't pay and get any softwares. Their softwares are completely open sourced or even written from scratch by their employees, right? And why I'm saying so is like we also gonna do the same approach. We're not gonna use any proprietary tools. We are not gonna bring in throughout the series. Throughout the series, we are gonna maintain that open source stack only, right? Anyways, coming back to the context. Yeah, just say yes. So the code is ready. Let's go and try looking into the code. I'll reveal in the file explorer. I'll try to open up. So these are some of the things which is going to interact, and you can see like what is happening. I'm just injecting an HTML. So it brings some HTML content. It see that it's creating a badge, some text are in bold, italic. Right? I can clear, the entire content is getting cleared. So means this space, I'm able to control it, this entire space. I'm controlling the HTML, what HTML to show. I'm controlling using the JavaScript. So I just press the button and things appears, right? I just clear and let's say like update the text. I'll say like open algo, update the text. So it appears, and probably I can add some list. So I can bring some list and clear. So likewise, I can select some colors, and it says like I can change the font size of the font, right? So you see that the interactivity, this kind of interactivity, multiple interactivity you can bring, like start timer, stop the timer, right? So reset the timer. So those kind of things you can bring. So all these are like interactive elements. You are just interacting with the DOM, right? So you're just interacting with the DOM, and the DOM is changing. You can see that it's changing in real time. That's what the DOM is all about, right? All those things we can do only using the JavaScript, right? Let's say when I'm pressing the tab, which tab, active tab, it should show, right? So again, these are like done by JavaScript, not just plain vanilla HTML. It is done by JavaScript. So that it adds interactivity to the DOM. And let's say like drag me. So you can see like these kind of dragging things are working, or like start. You see that the process bar. So this is again a bunch of some JavaScript which is manipulating the DOM. So most of the animations are what constantly will be updating the DOM interface. And when I press the model box, it is going to throw a dialog box over here. You see that's a small dialog box. I can just open up and close. And I can even go and fetch an API as well. So it's fetching from some random data. It's getting fetched every single time. Right? You can see that it's fetching some random data from the internet. And yeah, so these are the DOM controls, right? So there are more to that, but I guess you do something, you interact with the website, and the website content changes, or something is happening, some timer is running, or something is getting zoomed, unzoomed, something is getting added up, or something is getting deleted, something is getting cleared, everything is done by the JavaScript, right? Otherwise, we're not going to have any JavaScript session, but I just want you to know, right, what does an interactivity means, right? Now, why this is more important, I'll tell you, because I'm going to show you something called shared CN UI, because this is what we're going to use as an base to build our option platform, right? So shared CN, you see the shared CN, they have something called components, right? So if you go to components, you can find a lot of interactive controls, right? And these controls can be used inside. If you're using React, yes, you can use it. If you're using Next.js, you can use it. So let's say there are a lot of controls over here. One of the controls is like alert control. So you can see this control, how the control works, right? These are some of the interactive controls over here. So this is like Radix UI and base UI. Probably it will be coming like an kind of an message, like toast message. Yesterday we have seen toast message, right, in our application. So when I press the button, something appears, right, or some notification happens. So that notification is what it looks something like this. Maybe we'll go and see some more controls. There's a lot of controls that we can see, like that is an alert box. Badge. So something like, let's say like buy, you might seen in different color in Zerodha. Sell, you would have seen in different color in Zerodha, right? So your broker itself show NSE as a different color, BSE as a different color. So those colors has been showed with an outer layer. That's what a badge is all about. And card, so card will be you can use to bring your own cards. It's a simple login box. It has some cool cards for login. It has a header, content, and footer. Most likely these are nothing but what interactive elements, right? It uses some form of JavaScript or React in the backend. What I want you to do is, like, I want you to go back and understand all these components, because a lot of components are there. Let's say input OTP. You want to write some, you want to type some OTP, right? And you want to play with that. Automatically, you can say like, hey, this is how my OTP screen should look like. So they provide some standard screens for OTP. OTP is now becoming a common standard, right? And then keyboard shortcuts. So maybe you can see some of these things in many of the pages. So where you can go and get some keyboard shortcuts, Control plus B. So if your website need to have keyboard shortcut, let's say F1, F2 for placing buy and sell order, you can create your own keyboard shortcuts, and you can manage the page for keyboard shortcuts. Menu bar. So how the menu bar looks like. So you can go and demo those pages, right? How these controls. So these are nothing but what interactive controls. When I keep my cursor, how the UI color should change. If I move on to some other menu, how the menu should, old menu disappears and new menu comes. So everything is done by a JavaScript behind the scenes, because it brings interactivity as I interact. Checkbox, again, some cool checkboxes, right? So now what we're going to do is, like, we're going to build an application using the ShadCN UI. So in our previous session, we used React, we used FastAPI, but we never said how my theme should look like. So the ShadCN UI is nothing but the theme which is built on top of, maybe I'll tell you, this is more of a front-end thing, right? So front-end, let's say I'm using a React framework. React is a framework. React is not going to give you the look and feel, first of all, right? So React is kind of a framework. It uses something called virtual DOM to build your website faster. It brings more interactive controls faster. It's a component-based framework, React framework, but this is not the one which is going to give you the theme. So for theme, if you remember yesterday, we used something called Tailwind. So Tailwind is the one. So Tailwind is the one which is going to be a more of a CSS. It does the CSS work. Now on top of Tailwind, we are having this. What we are having? ShadCN UI. ShadCN UI is more of a optimized framework. It gives you the theme which is built on top of the Tailwind framework. Using Tailwind, you can build beautiful websites. But even more beautiful websites you'll be able to build on top of ShadCN, no, not ShandCN, it's ShadCN, right? So ShadCN UI. So basically, this is the theme. So you have a ready-made theme over here, ready-made components. Like you had seen, like the OTP, probably the buttons are ready-made cool buttons, or you can get some drop-down controls. You don't need to write everything from the scratch. You have ready-made controls, and it is also open source, free to use, right? So means you can use it even for commercial purpose also. There is no special licenses required. You don't need to go and ask anybody like, can I go and buy any theme or not? Of course, there are a lot of paid themes are available, but these are like open source themes. We're going to use ShadCN. And as you know, like ShadCN itself built on top of Tailwind, and Tailwind itself sits on top of the React framework. So what the React brings, it brings interactivity to your application. Interactivity to your app. And it also uses a component-based framework. Component-based framework means everything is a component in your website. Let's say the buttons, the drop-downs, or even you want to create your own order controls, right? So the order control screen, you can completely convert that into a component. I'm not going to talk more about React because front end, right, literally gone. Maybe we'll talk a lot about backend. Front end, whenever there is a need, I'll talk about that because front end is literally gone. You don't need to worry about front end anymore. We have front end skills. React is a very complex framework. If you have to sit and study and learn React, at least it's going to take you like a month or so, or maybe even 3 months, depends upon your interest in learning the front end frameworks. But that thing is completely gone. You don't need to be a front end coder, right? At least the practical manual coding has been completely gone over here to build any level of complexity, right? So your backend, we do still worry about to some extent from the design point of view. Are we clear? If you guys are clear, you just type clear so that we'll start building something related to an web app is what we're going to build on top of Upstock's API. Rajiv says clear. So how about others? Karthik, Rajiv, Nagaraj, Ram, Rohit, Sacred India, and Venkat Raghavan. Rohit says clear. Nagaraj says clear. Ram and Venkat Raghavan and Karthik, Manish. Okay, Manish says clear. All right, great. So let's move a little forward, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna build a completely different application using ShadCN UI framework is what I'm gonna build, right? Maybe in tomorrow's session, what we are gonna do is like we will try to learn more about the LLM stuff, LLM and agentic stuff, right? We're not going to build any agents, at least at the start. Maybe if time permits, in the later chapter, we'll try to see if we can build some AI agents, some cool AI agents on top of our option application. Now, right now, what I'm going to do, I'll try to go and get Upstocks is what I'm going to go and get. Upstocks, I'm going to go and get some APIs. We'll try to have some basic conversation about what an API is all about, because API is something which is very inevitable in any application, APIs and WebSockets. So these are the two things that we're going to worry about now. And we're going to build something on top of that. I'm just looking for Upstocks developer portal. Just give me a sec. Here it is. So I'll enter my number, login. It's asking me for an TOTP or even an OTP. 672257. And I'm going to give my PIN, which is done. Continue. So I'll go to algo trading. Probably I may have to go and create an new. There's a static API section is there. So right, these days you need to fill up the static IP, particularly if you want to place order. And that depends upon broker to broker. Some brokers, even for login, they ask static IP. Some brokers, they are clearly segregating non, place order, modify order, cancel order. For those things, you need a static IP. I taken a static IP. So if I go to openalgo.in/IP, this is a static IP which I had taken some weeks back, right, from Act Broadband. So that's the IP that I'm going to fill in over here. But remember, once you fill in, you cannot able to change it for a very long time, right? So I had also having a server as well. So this is my server IP and this is my local IP over here. Let me save that. So once this is done, right? So I'm gonna go and create a new app. So I'm gonna give an app name as like let's create an Upstocks algo, right? That's the name I'm gonna give. And it's asking me for an redirect URL. I'm gonna give the redirect URL name as http:// probably I'm gonna say like 127.0.0.1:8000. I'll tell you what this redirection URL means, right? Then a callback/upstocks. That's the URL that I'm gonna bring. So primary IP and secondary IP, I'll edit. I'll ensure that these are already there, saved it, which, and then postback URL. As of now, that we are not going to use it. Later on, I'll tell you if there is a requirement. I'll tell you what a postback URL is all about, right? And then I'm going to accept and then continue. So it's going to tell me like, hey, this is my Upstocks algo and redirect URL is this. Somehow the primary IP and secondary IP is not showing up, but the total cost is like free. I'm just going to confirm the plan. The API is up and done. Right. So here is my Upstocks algo. So once I created, it's giving me an API key, an API secret key. Now using this API key and API secret key, right, whatever I try to do manually, now I can do things automatically with my portal. I can place order, I can modify my order, I can retrieve historical stock market data, I can fetch real-time market data, right, which we're going to do within some time. We're going to do that. For that, what we need to know is like we need to learn the API documentation first of all. So you have to go and learn the Upstocks API documentation. In the meantime, I'll just copy the API key. I'm going to put it in the notepad. So remember, this is going to be a very brief discussion. So I want your full attention over here. Because it's something which is very important, because going forward, this session is going to act like a base session for building option applications on top of Upstocks. Right. So API key is there. Likewise, API secret key also. I just copied and then I'm going to simply paste it over here, right? So my API key and API secret key is there. I just simply put like Upstocks API key and secret. And as you know, redirect URL also. I'll just go and copy that. Maybe we may need to build it. You see the port number 8000 that is pointing to my Fast API port number. By default, Fast API runs in port 8000. Unless you're going to run in a different port, right? We just gonna simply keep that as 8000. I'm determined that I'm gonna run it in port 8000. I'm gonna use Fast API, right? So this is a port number that I'm gonna run over here. Okay. So once this is done, now let's go to the API documentation. So in this API documentation, they have a very clear-cut instructions of how to access the application, right? So how to access the application, probably how to authenticate. The first thing that you'll be seeing is like authentication. So generally, authentication, what this authentication is like, you have to authorize using your API key and API secret key. You have to tell, hey, I'm the one owner of my account. So these are my credentials. So allow me in so that I can place order, I can modify order, cancel orders, or I can access other provisions, other features provided by the brokers. Right. So we need to use this. So the authentication mechanism is called as OAuth 2.0. So what this OAuth 2.0 does is, I'll try to explain this in a very simple terms, right? So let's say I'm having a front end. I'm having a front end. Front end. I'm also having a backend as well. Backend. So backend is gonna most likely running in a port number 8000 because it's a fast API, right? It's fast API. And talking about front end, now what it does is like, let's say it has a button. It has a button. That button name is like login. When you press the login button, what it does is it redirects to the Upstocks portal. It redirects to the Upstocks portal and it shows the Upstocks login ID, password. You have to enter your 2FA credentials. You have to enter your 2FA credential. You may also have to enter your TOTP as well. TOTP as well. So you may have to enter PIN, you have to enter your login ID, password, and TOTP. And once you enter your login ID, password, and everything, so what it does is it sends you something called code. It sends you something called code. Code. And using this code and your API key and API secret, again, you'll be making a conversation with this guy. So with this broker server. So this everything will be going to the broker server, right? And this broker server probably will be authenticating you. So you'll be sending again, what you'll be sending here is like you'll be sending your API key with code or API key or plus API secret key. Some mixed thing is what we'll be sending. Or sometimes it could be a mathematical challenge also. Secret key. Most likely, I think API key and the code is what we'll be sending. I don't know. But so once you send this, right, finally, after all, it verifies your API key and code, it ensures that, oh, you are the correct user. And then it sends you finally the authentication token. This is the most important one. Authentication token. Auth token. So what is this auth token is all about? This is the one. So anytime that you're going to place any order, if you want to place any order, place order, you want to modify your order, right? Or even cancel your order. Anything that you're going to do, you need authentication token. You need authentication token. Every time that you are placing an order, you have to use your authentication token and you have to send it along with that, along with your request. And this authentication token is valid only for 24 hours. 24 hours. Most likely, it is not exactly 24 hours, right? It will be expired anywhere around midnight, mostly around like 1 p.m. to, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Somewhere around this time, it can expire. Generally, around some brokers will expire around 3 o'clock. Some brokers will keep only till 1 o'clock. But every day it will expire. Every day expire means next day, again, you have to do a fresh login. Every day, you have to do a fresh login, right? For example, this is one of the application which I had built for one of the client, right? So let's say you can see this is the same Supabase style terminal. I just click on sign in and it shows me that Google. So when I press this Google button, what it does is like it invokes the OAuth process, right? And when I click on that, it automatically what it does is like it uh, authenticates me and it gives me the authentication token, right? So of course, maybe the things are still not set up yet, but the context is more or less very simple, right? If you use it, let's see, it should work. I don't know, maybe I haven't used a different email ID, maybe. Yeah, let's try this. Yeah, so it loads to the dashboard. Right? It has like super base style dashboards over here. And anyways, coming back to the context. Now, if you could have seen this process, Google also uses the OAuth mechanism. Almost like instead of we using the Google button, we are using the broker's OAuth login. OAuth login. It means if I sign up, I have to enter the broker's credential instead of using my Google credential. I'm going to use my broker credential. And then I'll sign up using my credential. I'll be getting an OAuth token, right? There also in Gmail also, we'll be getting the OAuth token, but that will be valid for like what, 7 days or 60 days or sometimes even 30 days. That depends upon how long you are logged in your Gmail account. But here, SEBI clearly says that the authentication token should expire within 24 hours. This is an Indian standard. Maybe in US, they may not have these kind of standards, right? Maybe if you're a US broker, if you're dealing with US broker, or if you're dealing with crypto brokers, they don't, not necessarily they have to have this authentication mechanism. Their authentication mechanism could be straightforward. If they are using OAuth, definitely there'll be an expiry will be there, right? So, but I've been keep testing couple of crypto brokers as well. Their expiry is like they don't have any expiry at all. You can run your application 24 bar 7. In India, you cannot run 24 bar 7 into 365. You have to generate your token on a daily basis, and once you generated the token, you have to keep it in your database, right? You have to put it in your DB. So in a backend, it could be a Postgres or somewhere. You have to put it in a database, right? That's what we're gonna do that. So first we're gonna create the login layer is what we're gonna create. I'm gonna show you how to create the login layer. So that's gonna be the biggest key takeaway over here, right? And then we're gonna have an place order button, right? Simple place order button, which is gonna send a real order to the broker. Or we're gonna retrieve funds, but I don't know whether I parked for any funds or not. But doesn't matter. At least we'll get some order rejection. Let's try to see like whether we can able to build some controllers or not. But the biggest challenge is like to solving the authentication process. Now, how I want to explain this authentication mechanism to the my AI tool. The easiest way to do is like you just print this as a PDF. Okay. The problem is you cannot directly feed the PDF. I just say that this is authentication Upstocks developer API. What I prefer to do is like I go to ChatGPT. I'll attach this one and I'll say like convert this into .md file. MD means markdown file, right? I want to convert this into a markdown file, which I want to download it from ChatGPT itself. It's a text content is what I need. A markdown file converts, I mean, most of the documentation in the internet is written by a markdown format, including GitHub. If you would have seen, majority of the files are written in a .md format. It's a standard almost in the software industry to write a documentation in a markdown format. So it's completely converting that markdown file into a, from the PDF, it's converting into a markdown file. These markdown files are like kind of a food for the AI tools. So the AI tools love markdown files. Now, what is going to happen, I'll tell you. So this entire documentation will be converted into a Markdown format. So this contains how to get authenticated, right? So how the login, this is where the link will open that will be showing the login screen, where people have to enter their Upstox credentials, and then uh, it will be constructing the URL, and it will be giving you the code, secret code. That secret code you have to render, right? So you have to render it. And finally, so you'll be entering the details. You receive the auth code, a secret code you will receive. That is not the auth token. First, you will get some secret code, and that secret code is valid for some 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Within that time, you have to log in. So once you got the login, that finally you will get the access token. So it's a two-step process. First, you will have to log in, then it submits you the code. Then, so basically, the conversation will be going like this. Let's say this is my server, my backend server, backend, which is running in port 127.0.0.0.1 colon 8000, which is my fast API application, fast API. So I invoke a login, and successful login from the broker server. Let's say this is Upstock server, stock server. The good part is almost every broker has to use the same authentication. Earlier, different brokers, they use different authentication. Now everyone have to use the OAuth authentication, right? So first, I have to log in with 2FA plus TOTP. This is a standard procedure. Some brokers may use SMS instead of TOTP. Like we've been checking with Samco. Samco, they are not using TOTP. Instead, they are using SMS is what they are using. Some brokers like Kotak also, they are using SMS. Now they switch to TOTP mechanism as well. Once this is done, I'll be getting a code, right? I'll be getting a code. And along with that, so code plus key is what this will send. My server will be again sending code plus some random keys, some keys, some calculation it does, and then it sends the keys, right? And it differs from broker to broker again. Then finally it sends the authentication token, auth token. Where it sends to the redirect URL. Redirect URL. The purpose of the redirect URL is to catch the authentication token and store it in the database, right? So we'll be using the redirect URL. It'll be constantly looking for authentication token, auth token. Once the auth token arrives, so let's say auth token arrives from the broker server, automatically we store it in DB. And maybe we'll also go to the dashboard page also. Let's say login procedure. Login is successful. So now we go to the dashboard page. We are not going to show the login page anymore. Since authentication is successful, yes, now you can log into your application to place orders or to visualize things. Whatever you want to do, you can do those things. Now, this is what we are going to build an application on top of this using AI tools, right? So Rajiv is saying, please use Upstock, that is free in the entire course. Okay, I'll use Upstocks itself. Will not deviate much. I thought like we'll build Zerodha and done also. If time permits, we'll build that. Otherwise, we'll maintain with Upstocks. The reason with Upstocks is like free API, right? So you don't need to pay any extra money for it. Just open an account, you get a free API. Upstocks, Fires. I would have done with Fires, but Fires, since their APIs are very good, right? So their data also very good, but API is also free, by the way, with Fires. But the documentation is slightly complex compared to Upstocks. But Upstocks, Zerodha, done. So these documentation are very much easier, right? And this OAuth mechanism is likely to common across all the brokers. What SEBI says, you have to use OAuth authentication process, OAuth 2.0, OAuth 2.0. So which is what almost Facebook, Google, GitHub, everyone is using to log in to from external third-party application. So why this OAuth 2.0 is used? So that I can integrate in my portal or my application. I can use Upstock's login button so that it goes to the Upstock's login and authenticate me so that I can access Upstock's related controls, right? My account related controls. That's the main purpose of this OAuth 2.0. Okay, now let's go and build a beautiful React application. This time we should not be getting a lot of hiccups, right? So because I'm gonna say, first I'm gonna say like understand the vTrade application. I just want it to understand the entire application format, file structures, everything, and how the what library has been used. Everything I want to understand, right? So what theme is used, or I can say like understand the theme, file structure, libraries used, right? Or even the authentication mechanism. So why there is a reason for that? Because we're going to build a new application, something similar, but instead of using a direct login, we are going to have a Upstox based login. We're not going to store any login ID password, but we're going to store API keys and API secret keys, right? For the first time, we're going to store the API key and API secret key. We'll be storing in the database. This time, for the database, we are going to use Postgres. We're not going to use SQLite anymore. Yesterday, we used SQLite. SQLite is like a tiny file. It'll be sitting in the hard disk itself. So here you can see, like, if I go to vTrade, inside the backend, you'll be finding this trading.db, right? So trading.db, this is a database file. This is where our data, the user data, stock market data, all the order data, everything is stored inside this database file. But however, I'm going to use Postgres, right? So I already installed Postgres. So you may have to go and install Postgres as well. Postgres, which is what Zerodha and almost every broker in the country is using Postgres these days. Earlier, people used MySQL a lot, but in last 6-7 years, everybody migrated towards the industry itself migrated towards PostgreSQL, right? Very robust application, open source completely. So the latest version is like 18.3. You have to go and download. So it's going to take some 350 MB. You have to install, click, couple of installation you have to do. Now, once the installation is done, right? So then you have to ensure that you can, I mean, if you still you don't know, you have to ensure that you are talking to ChatGPT and then learn how to start the Postgres. So we'll talk about that. First, I'll download this markdown file because too many moving elements are there, right? So we'll solve one by one. So I want this markdown file. Yeah. That markdown file is what I'm going to keep it ready. I'll copy that. I'm going to create a new folder name called documentation docs. Reveal it. If you reveal it with the file explorer, it automatically opens up that particular folder. You can go inside and then paste the file. So Upstock's authentication. Now we can see like the file is there. So this is how the markdown format looks like. The entire content has been converted into a markdown format. So which is nothing, this is like table, right? So the table, and this is like bold letters with hash, pure text. And then this is an URL. And this is like something which is an embedded between an block quotes, something like that. This is again an block quotes where some codes or commands has been posted over. This is more of a command over here. Curl command is there. So it's having some bash commands. You can see like mostly bold characters will be starting with double hash. So Markdown has its own format, right? So the way to represent a table, the way to represent a heading, bold characters, titles. The titles will be mostly with double hash. Bold characters would be like star star. Maybe you would have used the same thing in WhatsApp, Telegram, right? So same way it is, nothing much different. But basically the entire context, how to do the login, right? So how the login happens, how the entire application works, everything is in how the authentication token is generated. That is what it having it eventually. Now, so you know, right, what Claude code understands is like it understands the architecture of the code of the old code, whatever the V trade that we had done, right? So now I'm gonna say, hey, I want to build another application using uh, this time I'm going to use React. I'm going to use Postgres, FastAPI, right? And then what else I'm going to use? Let's say like I'm going to use TypeScript. This time I'm not going to use JavaScript. I'm going to use TypeScript. Later on, we'll see what is the difference between what is JavaScript, what is TypeScript, right? So TypeScript is from Microsoft. Again, open source completely. Majority of the industry, they are moving away from JavaScript and they are moving to TypeScript, right? For building enterprise level applications. So for database, we're going to use Postgres, React, FastAPI, and TypeScript. I'm going to say I want a zero config application. Zero config application means I'm not going to config anything in my, I'm not going to put some text files or configuration files. I'm not going to maintain. I want a zero configuration application. It is a simple upstocks login application, right? Application and it uses OAuth. It uses OAuth for login, right? So this is what I'm gonna say. I just give a drag and drop that particular file. That file contains the context, how to do the login, everything. It contains all those things, right? So I'm just giving the context. Nothing much I'm doing over here. Like how I instruct my friend, the same way I'm instructing the AI model also. Whatever I'm not following any pattern over here, right? I'm just thinking that the Claude is my coding buddy. I'm trying to give maximum information to it. What I want and what are the relevant details. I'm providing the details. I'm providing what I want or what is the goal it should achieve or what is my expectation. I'm trying to explain my expectation and what documentation it should refer to achieve that expectation. That also I'm just giving to that, right? So I'll say like I want a home page, right, with a login button. When the login is pressed, it should login, right? So when login is pressed, it should. I mean, for the first time, if the user is not logged in, then it should get the API key and API secret, API key and API secret, store it in the database, right? So that's what it should do. And then, I mean, I don't even need to explain all those things. I just say like it's a login application, right? Homepage with a login application to log into Upstocks because it will figure it out. Who will figure it out? The AI will figure it out how to do all those things. And ensure API key and API secret is retrieved from the user using a separate page, which is later used to log into Upstocks, right? That's what we're going to do here. And redirect URL also. So not only API key, API secret key, I also have to put the redirect URL as well. Redirect URL. Separate page, which is later used to log into the Upstocks. After successful login, show the dashboard page. Also have a logout page as well. Logout page as well. And I have a logout button as well. So I just want to know whether are we able to log into the application or not, right? And once the login is done, I don't know any funds is available or not. Let me check if it is. So I have almost test accounts with almost 30 plus brokers I'm having. 30 plus demat accounts. What we'll do is like we'll try to show some holdings, maybe. Some small holdings is what I'm having. After successful login, show the holdings, right? For how we get the holdings, that is where the upstocks page, they may have some holdings probably under portfolio. They have this get holdings, right? So you see that the get holdings, there is an endpoint URL is there. And then you scroll down. If I call this URL and if I send my access token, I'll be get my response. So this page also, what I'm going to do, I just print this. I save this. I'll convert this into a markdown file so that I'm just going to feed it. Get holdings. So like provide in .md format. I'm just going to log in and then I'm going to just simply show my holdings after a successful login, right? Some bunch of stocks are there. So today it might look like I'm trying to do something randomly, but it is not. I'm following a certain process. So what is that process is what I'll be explaining in tomorrow's session, right? So tomorrow it's more of an part two where we will be talking about mostly LLMs and agents, right? So more the understanding that you're going to have about LLMs and agents, it will be very easy for you to prompt, right? So you will be confidently able to build things. Otherwise, you have to see this AI as a magic miracle pill, but it is not, right? And from fourth onwards, we will be in a full flow. We will be start building our options platform, which I call it as like open bull. And the end of the series, the entire application will be kept open source, right? I mean, it's last time it was writing an .md file, right? So it's converted into an. I should have said the file. When I say file, it is coming as a file. If I say format, it's coming in a format. So, but still, we can copy it, right? You see that these are like tables. It is in a markdown format, by the way. I'll tell you how to get the markdown format. So in the meantime, what I'll do, I'll go and create another inside the documentation. I just open another file. So if you create this plus, that's a file. This is a folder. So I'm going to create a new file. Let's call that as like upstocks underscore holdings.md. I'm just create a new file over here. And just simply copy and paste that markdown format. So you just go to that, you just copy it and paste it. When you copy and paste, it will be in a markdown format. Very simple. You don't need to uh, get too much about it, right? So we have like tables and everything. We also have some request response. Later on, we'll talk more about it. What is a request? What is a response? What is what? So I'll say like after successful login, show the holdings. That holdings details is what I'm attaching over here. So how to render the holdings and how to build a web app on top of that. Everything I'm just putting over there, right? And I'm going to say like use the same theme as we trade. So what are the theme that we used? Use the same we trade theme. I'm also gonna say like use load front-end skills. I think already the front-end skill has been already loaded, right? Uh, I'm sure front-end skill is not loaded, but doesn't matter. As of now, we don't need any front-end skill, right? So we're gonna use TypeScript this time. We're gonna use FastAPI, Postgres, React. Everything is there, and use the same theme as we trade. So means we're gonna use the super base theme, which is nothing but the super base theme. Even the same theme is what we are going to use in our throughout the series we're going to use. And the most important thing that we missed is like the shared CN UI, right? Shared CN UI. Okay, maybe this time we'll not use shared CN UI. Maybe uh, tomorrow onwards we'll start using shared CN UI. As of now, since I mentioned super base theme, we don't need shared CN UI, right? So maybe Open Bull will use instead of super base theme, we'll use shared CN UI. In fact, I use ShadCN UI in OpenAlgo itself, so I'm pretty much comfortable with ShadCN UI. This time we'll go with the same Superbase theme itself. What else I should go? Okay, so I just more or less we are done with that. I'll just read one more time. I want to build another application using React, Postgres, FastAPI, TypeScript. I want a zero config application. It is a simple Upstocks login application. It uses OAuth for login. The login, how to log in, that instruction has been shared. I want a home page with login to log into Upstocks. Ensure an AP key and AP secret key redirect is retrieved from the user using a separate page, which is later on used to log into the Upstocks. After successful login, show the dashboard page. Right. Also have a logout button as well. After successful login, show the holdings is what I want to show. Okay, I think this should be good enough. Let's see. Later on, if time permits, I'll also demonstrate how the login process works. I'll also demonstrate how the API works, right? So that you can get the feel of APIs. API is more of a communication layer. API means application programming interface. So remember, this time we are using TypeScript, right? So we learned something like JavaScript. We know what a JavaScript does. It brings interactivity, right? JavaScript. So what it does is like it brings interactivity. What's TypeScript is like? TypeScript is also kind of a JavaScript, but with types. Means we clearly say, hey, this variable is integer. This variable is like it's a string content. So that's what an TypeScript is all about. That enforces more robustness. It is more robust than JavaScript. Most of the errors will be filtered out. Most of the runtime errors will be filtered out at the build time itself. Now, what we do is like computers can understand only HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There is nothing called TypeScript, but TypeScript is only a programming language. We have to compile it. We have to compile it, or we have to build it, compile or build, whatever it is. So once we build it, it will be creating a JavaScript, right? Once we do a npm run dev, at that time, the TypeScript file will be converted into the JavaScript file. Because end of the day, the browser understands what? Browser can understand only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It doesn't understand TypeScript. But TypeScript, when you are running TypeScript, we have to compile it or run it or build it. Once you build it, it converts into JavaScript. So that JavaScript is what it's served in the browsers, right? So why we use TypeScript instead of JavaScript? Because it is more robust. I also have a slide for that as well. Yeah. So talking about JavaScript, right? So JavaScript, you know that it's more of an interactive controls. In the JavaScript, you can just type anything in the box, but in TypeScript, you can clearly say this box should contain only a number. It cannot contain a text. Whereas in JavaScript, you cannot say like that. It adds types. It can catch many errors earlier itself. When you're building the application, when you're running the application itself, it catches those errors. Not in production. Production errors will be very minimal. So JavaScript is not like that. One of the reasons why you should consider using TypeScript. You don't need to learn JavaScript. You don't need to learn TypeScript. So TypeScript is more modern. It's better to switch to TypeScript, which is nothing but a safer version of JavaScript, right? So in TypeScript, why people go like fewer bugs, clearer code, better editor support, and again it's from Microsoft, so more trustability, right? Easier teamwork in larger apps. Many enterprise level application has been built using TypeScript. TypeScript can be used in the backend also. It can be used in the front end also, right? Anyways, coming back to the context, we're still creating the front end. React, TypeScript, and Vite. You see that React is the framework. We are, instead of using JavaScript, we are using TypeScript, but runtime it will be compiled as a JavaScript. And Vite, we're going to use it to build the application, right? For building the application, we're going to use Vite. So let it build. In the meantime, we'll try to understand more about Vite. We'll go to ChatGPT and we'll try to understand what is Vite and why it is used in React projects. So to build us to scaffold. So you'll be able to get an optimized production build, right? We haven't done any build yet, but very soon I'll be showing you all those things. So during development, Vite does not build a whole app upfront, right? So we're not building the application, but it just only serves the application. What the browser needs, it only serves it. But in production, what we'll do is like we'll be creating a bundle, is what we'll be building. So npm run build, that will be building the application. Well, later on, I'll show you like how things works at a production grade. So you can also use npm create Vite, that will be creating the Vite for the React project. So Vite is the one which start the front end server. Whenever there is a change in the code, it instantly updates the front end, right? So that's what we call as a hard reload. And good modern defaults. What is that? It works well with TypeScript, CSS, preprocessors, environment variables. Okay, in very simple terms, right? It is the one, it is nothing to do with UI, but it makes the application run. It serves the application, and it serves the application in the development environment. If you are running in a production environment, it gives you the bundle solution, so that you take the bundle JavaScript and you can run it in your application, right? So yeah, so now it is installing those libraries, and front-end library is also getting installed. Back-end library is also getting installed over here. Say yes. So Rajiv is asking, do we need to use ngrok for exposing to web? Not required. I'll show you. The easiest mechanism is there inside VS Code itself. It's called dev tunnel. Maybe I'll show you once the project is running and working fine. I'll show you like how things works. In the meantime, I need to figure out where my Postgres is running. So I should start my Postgres server, right? I just say like I go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to run my Postgres server in Windows. I installed Postgres. Now I want to run the Postgres server. You see that I'm talking about something called Postgres server, because SQLite is like zero configuration, right? Oh, I should have said like I'm using in Windows. I stop this. Come on. And I'll just go and say like in Windows desktop because I need some Windows related stuff. Control Win plus R. So look for a service like Postgres. Right click, choose and start. Let me check if I can. Windows R key. Here it is. Asking me to type services.msc. What is that? Okay, here. And it is asking me to start the Postgres. Do I have Postgres? Postgres is there. It says like it's running, right? So the server is running already. So which means Postgres server is running. I'll be able to create database. I'll be able to modify database and all those things. Otherwise, there is a command is there. You can go and run. Whether Postgres is running or not, I can go and type this and check. So I'll open another terminal and just type this. If this is working, that means my Postgres is not recognized. Why is it so? So I should run it from the path, I think. So let me show you what is my path. Maybe the path is not added. Maybe my bad. So this is my Postgres. Says Postgres is running. Okay, never mind. Postgres is running, right? So I'm not gonna. So now it understands that I'm using Postgres 18. So Postgres 18 is what I'm using. So which means I should. I can try something like this. Let's see. I don't know whether this will work or not. Let's give a try. Yeah. I think password is 1 2 3 4 5 6. I think I just kept it very simple. Yeah, I'm able to go inside. That means if I'm able to do this, that means it's well and it's working well and good. For Postgres, when you're installing Postgres, you may have to enter a password. So for time being, I keep it as a simple password 1 2 3 4 5 6. Postgres is the username and my password. So I'll also tell you like what is the Postgres password and username I'm using. So Postgres DB, I'm also having the username. Username is like Postgres and password is 1 2 3 4 5 6. I think this context also I should provide to the I should provide to the AI as well. Say like because it should access the database, right? This is my Postgres credentials. Because without this, my application cannot communicate with my Postgres server. And Postgres again, it will be running in a separate port. So let's see like what port Postgres will be running. So it's running in port 5432. So now you know that there are three elements are there. We have a front end. This is running in port what? 5179, right? 5179 stands for wheat. And then we have backend, which is FastAPI. Backend, which is running in port 8000. This is a FastAPI, we know that, FastAPI. And then Postgres, again, it's also like kind of a server. It's a service which has to keep on running, right? Keep on listening, which is running in Postgres, which is port number 5432, right? Unless you change it. It's a database. It's a DB. So means I can store the data, I can render the data, I can delete the data. It's also creating the database as well. You can see that it created the database. So it's also setting up the Postgres and the password. Instead of Postgres, the password, I said like my password is 123456. It's connecting to the database. It's created the database name is upstocks_app, right? And it's also creating a couple of tables, whatever it is required. It's creating all those tables. And yes, and I say yes over here. So it ensures that everything is working fine. It's also starting the application behind the scenes as well. You can see the two shells. Application is getting started. So everything is working behind the scenes. Means if I go to 127 local host, right? Local host 5173, I should be able to see the application. Not yet. Why is it so? I think it is asking me to run. Okay, I'll say like, can you run the application? Uh, when I say run the app, it means it should start the front end and also the back end as well. So starting the front end using npm run dev. All the libraries, everything has been installed already. Front end is started. Back end is also started using UVCon, as you know. So both front end and back end is ready. So if I control click, the Upstocks app is coming up. You see that it exactly mimicking the another application. It's a working solution. And when I press the login, when I say login with Upstocks, it should go to the Upstocks portal. No, it's not going to the Upstocks portal. Okay, because my AP key and AP secret key is not set. So I have to go and set the values, right? So it's still doing good. I have to set my API key. It's going to the configuration page where I have to set my API key and API secret, and also the redirect URL as well. So redirect URL. You see that 127.0.0.1:8000 callback /upstocks. You must match redirect configuration in your Upstocks app. Yes, that's exact redirect URL. I'm just going to save it. Now, if I click on login with Upstocks, it goes to the Upstocks portal. Generally, it will ask for login ID and password. Since I already logged in this machine, it is directly asking for a PIN number. I enter my PIN number, continue. You see that it's giving me a code and it says like detail is not found. I'll say that I'm able to get the code, but maybe the redirect URL is not set properly. So let's give this information. I'm able to get the code. Say like I am able to get the code while login to Upstocks, but I got detail not found. It's not redirecting to the. It is not redirecting as per the redirect URL. And I'm gonna say like, hey, this is my redirect URL. Maybe what it doesn't know is like this is my redirect URL. This is my redirect URL. Maybe the format it might want to know this is supposed to be my redirect URL. Even the code, you can see that the code, whatever I got, this is a secret code. Using this code only, I have to get the authentication token, right? And this code also, I'm able to render in my redirection URL. For some reason, the redirect URL is not working. So now the AI have to figure out, it's making changes. says like I need to add a callback URL. See that it's the redirect URL haven't created as part of the application yet. So that's the reason I have to give the redirect URL also. Now we'll try to do the same login again. The application should have already reloaded. So we'll go back. We'll go to localhost 5173. Again, do the upstalks. It goes to the pin. If everything works fine, we should get the no still. Maybe I'll stop and restart. Maybe I'll say like restart the app. It's killing the application and it's going to restart the application. See, what you can also do is like you can just simply throw the documentation and the AI will create. You struggle a little bit and then it automatically will create. You don't need to know about anything. That is also possible. But you will not gain confidence unless you don't know the architecture of how the OAuth works, right? There is a difference once you know the architecture. Anyways, you don't need to bother about the code in either case. But first case, you just throw the documentation and you're asking for application works, you are happy, but you're not confident of building something next time. But today it is upstocks, tomorrow it can be done, tomorrow, day after tomorrow it can be 5 years, or you might be using an Zerodha as your broker. You can still feel confident because the procedure is more or less same, right? And it's saying like pondering, but it is not happening. Let's say like continue. For some reason it got escaped. So go to Claude. In Claude, right, there's a hyphen resume is there. This is a mode you can go and resume it. And then I'm going to say like, can you demonstrate DOM and JS? This is what we are using. So the entire conversation will get reloaded. So I'll just say like restart the app. That's what last time I had said. For some reason it got it's completely getting disconnected. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll go to the upstocks and then I'll resume it again. Instead of me saying like, can you provide commands? Can you provide commands to run the app? I'll do it on my own instead. Yeah. So multiple commands, it is in one shot is trying through. So first this will be logging into the application and then automatically runs the front end app. Right. So log into the application. What did I miss? Is the let's give an let's try to understand because this has been copied from the portal itself. I haven't typed anything. Callback is like since I'm using FastAPI, I'm using the FastAPI port. If I used Flask, I would have used 5000 over here, right? So that way it's correct only. Later on, we'll see if there is an issue with that. We'll try to run the UVCon, right? So backend is ready. Likewise, front end also. We have to get inside the front end and run the npm run dev. Like it. What I'm seeing here. npm run dev. So front end and back end is ready. Let's go and click login. So I have to enter my PIN details, continue. Yeah, you see that? You don't see the redirection happening over here, but if everything is fine, I'm able to see the holding page, right? So I just log out, the application gets logged out. I try to log in. Now, what is happening here is the moment I log in, my authentication token will be created. So where the authentication token will be created, it will be stored in my database. So how I can see my database? There is an tool called PG admin, right? PG admin. PG admin. So here is the tool. Here is the PG admin tool. There's a UI tool where I can see what is there inside the database, right? It's highly recommended. When you install Postgres, automatically, if you are installing directly through the Postgres website, right, you will be able to get an add-on, PG admin, which is not mandatory, but it's a good practice. If you are a very beginner, it's highly recommended that you try to learn PG admin, right? So if you go inside servers, you'll be finding like Postgres 18. I'll go inside Postgres 18. You go inside the Postgres user. There's a Postgres user. You go inside, there is a schema. Inside schema, there is a public folder. Inside the public folder, you'll be having tables. Market test is there, which I tried to create some time back. Today we created Upstocks app, right? So inside the Upstocks app, what are those values are there, right? So you can able to go back and check those details. We have like cache events, foreign data wrappers, languages, publication schemas, tables. What do we have here? Schemas, public, and tables. However, we don't have a table here. Yeah, tables are here. Table inside that, there is an auth session is there. I think probably if I try to view the data, all rows, I should be able to see the rows over here. I'm not a great user of PG admin. Yeah, so here is the authentication token is stored over here. You can see that. So what you have to do, this is little comprehensive for the very first time user. I'll show again. So if you open PG admin, which comes as an add-on when you are installing Postgres in Windows, and this is for viewing what is inside your database, right? So PostgreSQL 18 is what I had installed. Sometime back I installed 17. So I'm seeing two of those things. But Postgres 18 is the latest one, which I installed very recently, 2 days back. And inside Postgres 18, if you go inside Postgres, inside database, you have to go to Postgres. You open up Postgres, you'll be finding at the schema, right? Inside schema, you'll be finding public folder. Inside public, you'll be finding this Upstocks folder, right? So Upstocks app, inside the Upstocks app, you'll be finding this table here. Again, sorry, not over here. Forget the schema. Forget this Postgres itself. So the Upstocks itself created as a separate, inside the database, there we have an Upstocks database. Inside the Upstocks, we have schema, public, and inside that we have the tables. And I have this auth session. Inside the auth session, what data is stored, you can have a quick look on that. Honestly speaking, some time back, I was looking into all those things. I was looking into foreign keys, what data is getting created, whether it is encrypted or not. These days, you just have to say what as a beginner, you need to have an understanding about what is there inside the database as a beginner, right? So maybe tomorrow we'll try to do some CRUD operations, try to build some simple application so that we can understand how the CRUD operation works, what is stored inside the database, what is getting modified inside the database. We can practically look inside the database what is happening, right? How the data is stored, how the data is connected to one table to another table. So how that relationship is. We'll try to see some understanding in tomorrow's session as well, right? So that this value will be expiring. So using this value only, we are able to render the holdings, right? That is what is happening so far. Maybe this is not a great explainer for APIs. Maybe in our upcoming chapters, I'll try to explain APIs as a separate session, right? When we talk more and more about APIs and WebSockets, I'll show you how to build things using the APIs and WebSockets. Maybe on day 4, I'll show you, right? I'll be using tools like Bruno kind of tools. I'll show you how you can interact with the APIs, right? So that you can build anything using the APIs and WebSockets, how to test APIs, how to test WebSockets, even though it is not necessary, but it's still a good practice to build. Today, Upstocks, we are able to build it very seamlessly, we are able to build, but there are brokers where we dealt, their APIs are very complex. For example, Kotak APIs are very complex. And then we recently have to work with another broker. Again, their API is also super complex, like Enrich Money. It's still going on. It's like they have like very super complex APIs, right? Comparatively, Zerodha, Stocks, Angel, and Fires, Done is also slightly complex, but they have provide a lot of complex features. They provide very interesting features. They provide. Kotak, they are the fastest API, but the API documentation you have to do a lot of Sherlock Holmes work, right? So unless you are not studying the documentation, even using AI tools, it will be very difficult to build an application, right? Whereas Upstock's done fires, you just give it to the AI, build the application on the fly. You can go and build. That's pretty much faster, right? You don't need to sit and figure out what to do. You just say, give the documentation, start building things. That's how it is, right? Anybody is having any questions? Otherwise, we'll try to end the session today a little bit early because yesterday I extended till 9:30. I feel really bad about it. Otherwise, still a lot of things to talk. It's not going to stop, but somewhere we'll say like, hey, boss, we'll stop here. Tomorrow we'll continue. And as I said, tomorrow we'll be starting with the very basics of LLM and AI to agentic tools. And I would like to end with some more slides. So one of the things that I would like to talk about is like talking about web choices, right? So generally people use TypeScript, right, as a backend language. Yes, you can use TypeScript also as a backend. Python and Go. Go is mostly preferred for performance and concurrency, something like a web terminal where millions of users are going to use. Python, yeah, maybe thousands of users, 10,000s of users. You're going to build some simple micro SaaS application or a simple SaaS application where hundreds of people are going to use, or thousands of people are going to use. Python can be used. Python also can be used for millions of users as well, but your cost will go high. So when you want more simultaneous visitors, millions of queries, you can build with TypeScript or Go even more faster. These are like more faster programming languages. Comparatively, Python is considered as slower, right? And particularly, you can use it in machine learning application, Python, or something like an data processing application, analytical application, like stock market application, like we are building an option platform, right? Option platform I can build in TypeScript also, Python also, in Go also. So why we opted for Python is like we have ready-made libraries for calculating IV values. Uh, if you want any technical indicators, yes, in Python we have a ready-made library. Whereas in TypeScript or Go, I have to go and figure out how to calculate the IVs. I have to go and figure out how to calculate the any calculation that I want to do. And moreover, if I want to do something machine learning on top of that, then definitely Python is the real good choice. TypeScript and Go will be very faster, but they don't have those formulas. They don't have ready-made libraries by default. And Python has a very strong community, right? So it's one of the number one programming language so far because a lot of libraries, almost millions of libraries you can find in Python, right? You want a trading, you want to do trading with a broker, you find a library. You want to build a charting application? Yes. You want to do some charts? You can find a library very easily. You want to do an let's say some data analytics, you will be able to find libraries. You want to do an ML application? Yes, you can use very easily. You can find libraries for everything. Python has a very vast library for the backend application, right? And still people prefer to go for Go. Mostly businesses, they love to build, not single user application. They don't like to go for Go, but businesses like Zerodha who want more concurrency, they have like massive user base. So those kind of people, they should go for Go or TypeScript as a backend. Whereas React, Vue, and Angular, React is from, as you know, like it's from Facebook. Vue, again, Zerodha uses it. Angular, uh, is from Google, but it's heavier. I'm not a big fan of Angular, by the way. I used Angular in my previous projects, but I'm not a big fan of Angular anymore. I love Vue because I seen the work of Kite from Zerodha, but I am using React because if you're going to use AI tools, React or Next.js based applications can be very easily able to build using AI tools. On the fly, you can able to build. I built, in fact, OpenAlgo itself uses the React framework, right, for the front end. And Sketchmaker, again, one of the another application that I built. So most of the application what I'm building is like React, whereas this application, some of the application I also used Next.js as well, right? So Next.js and React, I'm pretty much familiar about it. Vue is again a different ecosystem. Still, AI could be able to solve, I think, but it doesn't matter. You should use any one of the framework because this is not going to decide what UI. The theme is not decided by the React or Vue. It's just only a framework, front end framework, right? To make your application to load faster, to bring interactivity. For theme, you should consider using something like an. There are many themes are there. One of my favorite theme, as I said, like Shatsian. Earlier, I used Daisy UI kind of themes, but in the internet, there are a lot of themes are there. You can just search for like React framework themes. You'll be getting plenty of themes in Google, right? And talking about backend, Flask, Django, and FastAPI, these are like Python framework. Like how we have a front end framework like React, Vue, and Angular. Inside Python itself, we have a Flask, Django, and FastAPI. FastAPI is very modern and API first. It's also very fast as well, as I said. And many enterprise level people are using FastAPI, right? And Flask is mostly used for lightweight application. For a OpenAlgo kind of a single user application, we can use Flask. And I had created Flask because I thought like Flask is very easy for me to learn. And if I keep it open source, many people will come and contribute because it is easy to learn, right? Easy to learn, simple, not too much of complexities, very easy to build a backend, right? So as a non-programmer using AI tool, it was very easy to build a Flask application. But now, if you ask me, I would definitely pick up FastAPI because this is mostly growing faster. This is more of a sync. This is more of an async. I can send parallel orders. All those things is very much easily possible. In Flask also possible, but in FastAPI it is easily you can do that, right? So whatever I can do it in Flask, I can do it in Django. I can do it in FastAPI, but FastAPI has more robustness controls are there. Django, many big enterprises using it. Even now, also many big applications they are using Django for it. Right, many chatting application, CRM application, everything has been built on top of Django. But somehow I'm not a big fan of Django uh, because it brings everything in one shot. You want an admin panel, it comes by default. You want an authentication permission, you get it by default. You want ORM for database access, you get it. Form 1 validation, you get it. So everything is ready made. That's what they call as like batteries included. Whereas Flask and Fast API, you have to build everything from the scratch. I like to build something from the scratch. I don't want anything ready made. Ready made is good for building enterprise level application, but if I want to build my own application, my own customized application, right, then I would definitely go with Fast API. So the recommendation here is use Flask if you want a simple introduction to the backend basics. You're a first time user, you want to build something very faster, you want to build, uh, but that is with hand coding. Now that also gone completely gone. So now the same application I can develop in Flask also, Django also, Fast API also. more or less it's going to take me the same time, right? So better, where the industry is moving towards that, we'll also move towards that. So industry is using fast API, we'll also use the fast API, right? Because it's more robust. You can find many, uh, I can say, like, you can find many uh, polls done among the developers. So one of the developers' recent choices like fast API, Stack Overflow does many such kind of polling. Django, if your website wants a lot of built-in features, admin panel, authentication, structure out of the box, everything, if you want, you have to go with Django. Fast API, if you're building a modern API backend, if you are using React on the front end, particularly if you're using React, Fast API goes hand in hand, and you want the best fit for your current stack, right? So then you should go with Fast API. So, anyways, with this, I would like to stop the session here, right? And a lot of things we are yet to discuss. Maybe we'll carry forward it for tomorrow. But I'm sure today's session, let's summarize what we had learned. We had learned a lot of things, right? So we had learned, probably we used Postgres database in today's application. We learned about something called PG admin. It's an UI for managing the database, managing the DB. We learned about a new concept. We learned about the skin called shared CNUI. So it's more of a team with bunch of components, huge amount of components, ready-made components, right? Ready-made components. Now, what I want you to do, go back to ShatCN portal, try to understand what are the different types of components they are having, right? So each and every component has its own colors, themes, and controls, different type of controls. Mostly, it's built on top of Tailwind. Tailwind, and many AI tools are already an expert. Even a small model or an expert model, they're already familiar with Tailwind. Tailwind is these days used to build modern applications, right? Modern web applications. A beautiful web application, you can say that. By default, if you're building in Tailwind, your website is likely to be beautiful. That's the kind of standard Tailwind had created over a period of last couple of years. And what else we had learned? Tailwind, Wheat, we had learned about that. This is more of an tooling, right? So for build or compile. We also learned about TypeScript. We also learned about DOM, right? So DOM, we haven't learned about virtual DOM. Maybe if there is a need, I'll explain. Otherwise, go and try to understand what is DOM versus virtual DOM, right? So I'll also showed you like how the different types of DOM controls, how interactive your website can go, right? Um, all those things that we had learned. Too much to talk about it, but yeah, I think these are some of the basics that can help you to build an full stack application, right? So MPS Rajiv is asking, will we record Nifty option chain data for doing analysis? Yes, as I said, like time permits, definitely we're gonna do those things. We will be building an uh, kind of an option strategy simulator, something like that. If time permits, probably within like once we have a sufficient things in place, right? It'll be very easy to do a replay of trading strategies, right? First, we will build the basic building blocks. When we have time, we extend the features to do something like recording and playing the play of graph, scenario analysis, and all those things we'll be able to build, right? First, we'll try to see like what are the basic framework that we have to build. A lot of things we will be building from day four onwards. Day four onwards, we'll be focusing on only one application only continuously. For the next 30 plus days, we'll be focusing only on one application. Inside the application, we'll be building a lot of things. We'll be building the API part, we'll be building the UI part, the backend structure, supporting multiple brokers if it is possible. I don't know whether I should do that or not at the first moment itself. At least we'll try to build for upstocks, that is for sure. And yeah, so that's how it is going to be, right? So all right, so anyways, I'll stop here. I say thank you for coming by. I hope you learned something in today's session. And tomorrow, don't miss out the session. We will be talking about the LLMs and agents. That is going to serve as the foundational basics for the upcoming sessions. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye. So Karthik is saying, will the open bull call will be merged into open algo? No, open algo is completely different. Open bull is completely different. Right? Open bull is only an option trading platform, maybe with automated execution, purely about for the option traders, futures and option traders most likely, right? Where let's say like I'm a trader who want to play with straddles, strangles, all those things manually, right? Or even analytical platform. But OpenAlgo is more of an algo-based platform, right? You may find a lot of commonalities, but the purpose is completely different. OpenAlgo is a self-hostable algo trading platform, whereas OpenBull is an completely an option analytics and execution platform, right? But you can find more or less a lot of similarities. OpenAlgo uses FastAPI, whereas OpenBull is going to use FastAPI, right? OpenAlgo uses Flask, Python Flask, whereas it uses FastAPI. And OpenAlgo uses React. Here also we're going to use React. OpenAlgo uses ShatCN UI. Here also we're going to use the ShatCN UI. So a lot of commonalities, but the purpose is completely different. Purpose, build, design, everything is going to be different completely, right? So this is something completely different architecture altogether, right? Anyways, we'll talk more about it in our upcoming chapter. Thank you.